Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for that quick run through of my CV. You missed off that I also worked in my family computer software business, so I'm feeling quite reasonably at home in this environment. And the family business wrote the software that turns a postcode into an address. So as everybody does their Christmas shopping, if you do it online, I hope we save you some time over the next couple of weeks. But that has given me a grounding in the use of technology and a passion for the use of technology, which as an education minister, I find is an area whose time has come. And it's interesting to be in the education department and in the business department thinking about the use of technology in education, both in schools and in colleges and with David Willits in universities as well. And this area has a reasonably long history. A decade ago, you would have found a minister speaking at a conference for technology. But I say it's a time that's come because we're trying to take an attitude to the use of technology in schools which is less directive and more following and listening to the impact and the best practice on the ground. Where there may have been initiatives in the past that directed from the centre saying this is the technology that you should use and here is the funding for it, we see instead technology much more as a tool for high quality teaching. We hope to play an enabling role, but we hope to leave it to schools and teachers to understand what is the best use of this fantastic tool that has such an impact on every other area of our lives, and how it can be best used to enhance and drive up the quality of teaching. I was struck this weekend when I was thinking about what I was going to say here, that my 5-year-old came into the room and said, "Daddy, Christmas Day is going to be on a Wednesday this year." I said, "Oh, right, very good. Did you look on the calendar?" He said, "No, Miss Tribe Googled it on Friday." And I thought that the fact that his teacher at school had not used a rather old-fashioned tool of a calendar, but instead for something as simple as what day of the week does Christmas Day fall on, had used Google, was a sign of the times and a sign of the impact of technology on the classroom. And tablets for schools, I think, plays already and will play a big role in this, because the approach that tablets for schools has taken is to take an excitement by and a recognition of the value of technology and tablets in particular in education, and decided that the best way to promote that, the best way to develop that and enhance it, is through rigorous and objective analysis of the impact of technology in schools, and most importantly, understanding what other changes need to happen, how the technology fits within the school environment to make sure that you get the best out of it. Because the impact of technology in education is not a replacement for teaching, it is an enhancement of teaching. It is an extra tool for every good teacher. And the evidence from around the world is that the impact of this blended learning can be extremely strong, especially at making sure that every student, every pupil in the class can be taught more closely to their own pace. Instead of teaching to the middle of a group of, say, 30 pupils, the use of technology can be used not only to enhance the learning experience of the best in the class, to allow them to speed ahead, but it's interesting that the research from America shows that the best and most positive impact is actually on those who are least engaged with the teaching, because the hit that you get, the psychological, indeed the physiological response that you get from learning, that dopamine boost that we all know about, that you get when you learnt something and then had that learning reinforced through practice and through getting an answer right. That can be used by taking pupils at their own pace, whatever their level, and keeping going with the feedback and the interaction, whether with the teacher or with technology, can be used to engage those students who are least engaged in a way that simply can't be done in a 1:30 or 2:30 ratio within a school, within a traditional bricks and mortar only environment. And so the research is extremely telling about the power of technology to teach and to improve the prospects for all. And the great thing about tablets for schools is that they are objectively analysing how technology can be used and then promulgating best practice about how it ought to be used. Now, of course, there are some other things that the government can do. In our capital programme in colleges, we have a focus on ensuring that Wi-Fi has enough bandwidth to cope with a whole load of people using it at once. Where there are blocks, for instance, in the way that exams are run, where they are in many cases paper only, we're very happy to look at that. As Andrew said, I chair a group in the Department for Education on the use of technology, and as much as promulgating best practice, we see it as our role to listen, to find out from you what the barriers are to the use of technology for improved teaching, and where there are regulatory barriers or where there are funding barriers within the very tight funding constraints that we all have to live in. We look at those and see what we can break through. So that is the government's thinking on tablets and pedagogy. I don't want to get too much into the details of how use of technology can affect and change pedagogy, because we need to be driven by the evidence, and we're going to hear the evidence from two distinguished professors very shortly, except to say that there is no doubt that this combination of technology and excellent human teaching can improve standards and can empower teachers. And this is a moment at which we need to ensure that when culture needs to change and where practices need to change, we should not just be teaching using old practices with new technology, but make sure that we change the way that we teach, as well as change the technology we use to teach. So, as I hope that I've conveyed, I'm a huge enthusiast for this area. The Secretary of State, who apologises because he would have loved to have been here today but couldn't be because he's abroad, he is a huge enthusiast for understanding what works and learning from best practice, and ultimately for driving up the standards of teaching and of learning for as many pupils as we possibly can, the most disadvantaged and the most brilliant, and empowering teachers to do the very best job that they can. Thank you.